Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
For those who don't know, I started my career as a tax consultant. I worked with what is now PricewaterhouseCoopers. It was one of the big six. It was part of the Coopers and Lybrand side of that. Big Six, worked with large companies. The sales cycle on those sorts of things they weren't days, they weren't weeks, they weren't months. Sometimes they were years in the making. And you worked really hard to get clients or even get projects, if you would, from the bigger clients because they had internal people. And when you landed a project or you landed a client, you had this moment of euphoria. Oh my God, we landed the client. And that would last all of about 2 minutes because then you would be hit with this daunting realization of, now I got to do the work. Oh my gosh, I've got to keep this client. It was hard to get the client, but in a way it's harder to hang on to the client. Well, just for a lot of reasons. You have a lot more touch points and a lot more things that, your best foot's not always forward. It can be a whole host of things. And that I just always remembered that, and just that, the swing of emotions. And it's never really left me. Even today, as I sell franchises, I sell a franchise, I'm excited, and then I realize that the work is just beginning. It's not like selling a car where you close the deal and they drive off the lot and you'll likely never see them again. So that leads into my guest today, Richard Wildman. And Richard wrote a book. I'll talk about that in a second, but he's a Hall of Fame inducted keynote speaker. And he's also been inducted into the Customer Experience Hall of Fame for his legendary experience and work helping brands engage with their customers and retain them. And he's the author of 2 international bestsellers, one of which is The Power of Why, Breaking Out in a Competitive Marketplace. And you can find that in 7 languages. But he currently released, actually this was released back in March 12th, 2024, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. Is his latest and greatest book. Richard, welcome. That's quite a build-up for you, quite an experience. How's your book going, by the way?
Well, thank you for that, Frank, and thanks for the opportunity to be with you today. I just got a note from the publisher. It's #1 hot new release on Amazon in marketing category and in consumer behavior category. And I guess we've crept up into the top 15 now. So I'm just really grateful for all the people that have invested in themselves to purchase the book, 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. And I'm really grateful for you for hosting this podcast. Thank you.
No problem. Well, I think it's I think it's one of those topics that that really anybody in business, even if you're not in sales, even if you're leading a sales team or just a CEO, anybody is like, okay, this is something we all need to lean into. I think, really everybody who's working in a company is kind of responsible for, my daughter works for a professional soccer team, and I tell her, I say, you know what, everybody's job is to get butts in the seats and eyes on the game. Even
Exactly
the person,
right.
Even the person who's sweeping up and making sure that, that's all part of the experience.
Well, you're right. I mean, I work, I have a very privileged to have a wonderful consulting practice and a team of certified coaches that help all of our clients implement ideas. But when the Minnesota Vikings built their new stadium, they had me come in. I met with Kevin Warren. We did an audit, various things that could be improved upon, like more TV screens. Don't point people to the ladies' and men's room. Open your hand and guide them. Put extra cords in the executive suite so people can charge any device they want. And then most importantly, to really encourage and teach people that are going to be serving food and ushers and all the others, how to be kind and thoughtful and caring and empathetic to everybody who came into the stadium. And as a result of that, they went from 17th to 7th in NFL revenue in 1 year with a losing team. So that,
Yeah.
again, it's the experience that people have is what brings them back. And to your point about your daughter being in the soccer business, if you will, yeah, it's everybody's job, including the young lady or young man that answers the phone. And instead of saying, how can I help you? Say, I want to make it a great day for you. My pleasure. The little things make a difference.
Well, you mentioned professional teams, and there is something to the brand of the team for sure.
Sure.
But you do have teams like the Cleveland Browns. We'll pick on the NFL. Okay. I don't want to say they're perennial losers because that's not fair. But you know what? They're hungry for a championship. Well, so is Minnesota. But they don't have problems putting butts in seats.
Well, exactly right. And it's because of the experience that people have. It's like in Buffalo, you got what's called a Buffalo Mafia or something.
Yeah.
And so these are individuals that go, rain, snow, it doesn't matter, sleeting. Hey, great, it's only sleeting. I thought it was going to be an ice storm. Let's go to the game. So it's just Green Bay, I think, likely was the future forecast of fan loyalty back in the day. But it's not just, there. I mean, if you look at Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy was a dear friend of mine. He was a founder. He's passed away now. From skin cancer a few years ago. His son Dan runs the company, but and Truett and I spent an incredible amount of time. We traveled, we did radio, TV, a lot of things together. But he always said, Richard, we got to keep reminding the team now we're not in the chicken business. I don't want anybody to think we're in the chicken business. We're not in the chicken business. We're in the people business.
Yeah,
we got to treat people like people and not like a transaction. And when you really think about it. Look at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is closed every Sunday. So that's 52 days a year. So here's another way to quantify it for all our business owners and leaders here on this, listening to this broadcast. That basically means they close November 10th and reopen January 1st.
Yeah.
Yet they have the highest revenue per unit than any other fast food chain in the world. They're not open 24/7. And the truth is, they're way short of 365. Yet they're generating revenue. So when I wrote 100 Proven Ways, I went to Chick-fil-A and walked the car line of people waiting in line. With a microphone, I'd say, "Hi, I'm getting an idea of why people come to Chick-fil-A. Why do you come to Chick-fil-A?" And they all would say, "Oh, the chicken's great, the food's great," or something. I said, "Oh, so that's why you're here?" Well, they're really kind and they're gracious here, and they're very nice to us. And they always say, "Please, my pleasure, and thank you." So let's just cut to the chase. The reality is, please, my pleasure, and thank you is the baseline. And if a company like Chick-fil-A can use please, my pleasure, and thank you and get record revenue, this says a great deal about where people are today. People are desperate for somebody to be kind, and to be thoughtful, and to care enough to be empathetic. That's it.
You use the term, or I guess the phrase, the people are going through a great reevaluation.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? That's just
sure.
Go, please.
Yeah, that's where we are. If everybody listening just puts the brakes on for a minute and says, well, if you're driving, but think about it this perspective. Okay. All of us at various times in our lives, and particularly now since the pandemic, when we realized a lot of things are available from a lot of different providers, and it really commoditized we're basically commoditized no matter what you're selling. So for the most part. So with that said, people are going through this. Am I with the right company? Am I with the right firm? Do I have the right air conditioning service people? Do I have the right doctor, the right dentist, the right hairdresser? Do I have the right dry cleaner? Are we going to the right restaurant tonight? We go there a lot. I don't know. I heard this other place is really great. It's not so noisy. So what's going on is people are going through a great reevaluation. Am I doing business with a firm that cares about me, or is it just about the transaction? And so as a result of that, what companies, small business, all of them, need to, it's what the Vikings did, it's what Freddy's Steak Burger and Custard did. I worked with them, and they just won the National Restaurant Award for the best fast casual in the United States. They're a small chain compared to Smashburger and Culver's and everybody else, but they crushed them with their scores. Why? Because Freddie's focused on one thing, the great re-engagement. Let's re-engage with our customers. Let's cultivate them. Let's be there for them. Let's make a difference for them. And it's been amazing because of this great reevaluation. When you cultivate the relationship, that's the link between acquiring the business and keeping the business is a relationship. And if you elevate the experience, I call it the 4 E's, elevate the experience. And what does that do? It results in emotional engagement. And when you get emotional engagement, no amount of competitive dollars is going to move that customer from your, shall we say, firm. That and everybody's going through it now. I talked to so many people. I said, so what's new? Well, I'm looking for a new doctor. I'm looking for a new dentist. I'm kind of fed up with the fact that, I go to my dry cleaning. Damn, they never have it ready on time. And, I've been driving this car for a long time and I was but I'm going to go to a different car because the service is so bad.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't heard that term. Well, it's your term. You've trademarked it. I haven't heard that term, but I've felt it. I felt it through the COVID lockdown.
Yep.
And when I say I felt it, it was kind of in my own heart. It's like, you know what? Things have changed. Now's the time to kind of reevaluate things. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of the story when the London Underground went on strike. And they were only on strike for like 2 or 3 days. But when people came back from the Underground being on strike, 5% didn't get back to their normal travel routine because that disruption forced them to find a different way. And they discovered that different way was, you know what? That's just it's a better experience for me. And they didn't go back to the Underground. Now the Underground's fine. 95% of the people did, but that just accentuates your point that we need to, as service providers, make sure to keep track of our people is that they're not going through that disruption.
Yeah, that great reevaluation of I mean, we've all done it. We've gone to a restaurant, the food's fabulous, the service is pretty good, we're happy with it, we leave. And then the next time somebody say, hey, let's go to, and you go, so noisy and we haven't talked to them. Well, let's go somewhere else where we can talk.
Yeah.
We're probably never going to go back to that initial restaurant just for that very reason, because people evaluate money spends anywhere, money invests anywhere, and you have to cultivate. May I give you a real quick example?
No, please. Yeah.
In Sarasota, Florida, there is next to the police station, there is a donut shop called 50 Donuts. Now, I'm not a big donut guy, but next to the police station, 50 Donuts makes sense. And their tagline is arrestingly good donuts, which makes all the sense. And they are massive donuts.
Right.
All right. Now, I bought my first donuts there when I first opened, August 4th, 2019. You say, well, how would you ever remember when you bought what are you, nuts? I mean, no. It's because every August 4th, I get a text for them. And it says, congratulations, squad member, for another successful year on the force. $5 off your next donut.
Mm.
Every year, August 4th, I get that. Now, they now have 7 locations since 2019 in Florida. And the line is out the door. Now, why is that? Because they cultivate the relationship with the people. And yeah, it's a donut. And no, it's not non-GMO. And yes, it's packed with carbs and it's full of, but nobody cares. Because you know why? We want to be part of the squad.
Yeah, no, that is a great story. So let's talk about experience and creating that emotion, that empathy. What are some things that the listeners can? We're not going to go through the 100 reasons or the 100 ways.
No. Let's not do that.
But in general, just give us 99.
Yeah, let me give you a hint. Let me give you a quick handful. Okay. Yeah. So first thing is, you've got some kind of CRM, customer relationship. Everybody does. You're logging customer ins at some level. So you need to shift your brain. It's not a CRM. It should be a CXM, customer experience management system. So where does it start? It starts with knowing someone's name. My first initial is C. I don't use it. I get lots of emails though, dear C. I don't read it. Okay, my name is Richard. That's what I go by. All right. So if you may have a client and her name is Elizabeth, but is it Elizabeth, Liz, Beth, or Betty? Like my good friend in Atlanta, who's in her 60s, and her nickname is Lolly. Her name's Elizabeth, but it's Lolly because her grandfather named her that because she loved lollipops, and she's been Lolly her whole life. And she tells me great stories of financial advisors that call her realtors and said, "No, Elizabeth, we'd like," she said, "I just hang up because I know they don't know me.
Mhm.
Everybody in town knows my name is Lolly." T. Boone Pickens never went by T. Let's just be clear. So let's start with finding out their name that they prefer to be addressed by. Number one. Number two, when you sign your emails, don't say feel welcome to read. Don't say feel free to reach out. Feel free to reach out. That went out when what does that mean? You should say feel welcome to reach out. It's far more gracious. When you sign your emails, get away from best. That is the number one despised. I mean, we talked to 6,000 people. It's the number one despised signature at the end. The second was sincerely yours.
Oh, you know
So
what?
we asked them,
I've just used best for the last time. Thank you.
yeah. Well, why? Because people say, I mean, my interns are on the phone talk and asking people, how do you feel about Beth? Well, let me tell you. And then people rant. Well, best what? Best for them, best for me. What, they can't type in other words? They don't really have any. I mean, you're like, okay, we got it. How about sincerely yours? Well, now that's another one that annoys me. Okay, so my feeling is, if it doesn't work, why wouldn't we use it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's logical. So we began to ask, what do you like? Warm regards, kind regards, even best regards is better than best. So that's another thing you can do. Another thing, don't call people to follow up. Hi, Mrs. Wilson, we gave you an estimate on the air conditioning last week, and I'm just following up to see what decision you've made. Let me tell you something. If they'd made a decision, they would have already called you. All you're
Yeah.
doing is checking it off your list. Don't ever call to follow up. Why? Because if what people are motivated by are steps. So if I gave you an air conditioning estimate, Greta, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, hi, this is Richard Wildman calling from ABC Refrigeration. Last week, I gave you a full estimate of what it would take to upgrade your air conditioning systems. However, I've identified a couple of next steps we could take together to make it not only more affordable for you, but most importantly, to extend your warranty. I'd like to stop by and go through those steps with you. In other words, if you're going to call somebody, bring some value to the conversation. Many years ago, Frank, I called the CEO and I said, hi, I'm just calling to touch base. He said, do what? I said, I'm calling to touch base. He said, you're calling to touch base with me? I said, yeah. He said, great. I'm on home plate and you're out. He hung up on me. So I
I love.
stopped using it. I stopped
Yeah.
using it. And when we started interviewing and talking to people, we said, what don't you like about salespeople? They always call to follow up and they have nothing more to offer. They always call to follow up and have nothing more to offer. They think that we're stupid and we forgot their phone number or something. Okay, well, then let's not send an email. I'm just following up. I'm calling to. No, I've identified a couple additional steps we can do to move you forward, to get your house in order, your finances in order, to get the home of your dreams, et cetera. Other things you can do. I do some work for Keller Williams. You probably know their real estate company and
Yeah.
Corcoran's company, and she's got a team in Hawaii. They were 97th, 97th in 2022. So anyway, I worked with them, and they finished 5th last year. So she's pretty thrilled. But in fact, on my website, Richard Weilman, WEYLMAN.com, you can go there and you'll see her comments and others. And there's videos I've loaded there for you. They're short little videos you can use in your set. They're all free. Just go and enjoy it. But the important thing is, when I met with this team, I said, what do you do when somebody lists a house or buys a house? Oh, well, we send them a cake. I said, good. What kind of cake? Well, a round cake says congratulations. I said, what else does it say? What do you mean? It says congratulations for listing your house or selling it. I said, I want to see a picture of this cake. Richard, it's just a round cake that says congratulations. I said, well, I think that's the problem. I want to see it. So they sent me a picture. See? I was like, okay. If you like round cakes, we're happy for you. It is a little creative. It's great. But why don't we have the picture or shape of a house on there with the house number? Okay. So delighted to put you in your dream home at 773, or so delighted to be able to get this home in the market so you can move to the next step in your life. So we did one, and they posted it on Facebook. Within a day, they had two people call, list their houses, and 2 buyers said, we're looking for somebody, get this, that cares and is a thoughtful realtor, so we're going to select you. And what did that cost? A cake. Now, I'll give you another thought. when you send a cake, don't send it to the house. Ever. Why? Because it's going to be in the kitchen. The kids are going to eat it. It's going to be great. But nobody's going to hear about it unless you post it. Send it to their office. Why? They're going to end up in a break room with this big cake. And they're eating the cake. And what do they get? Somebody's going to come in and say, where'd you get the cake? My realtor sent it to me, or my financial advisor sent it to me. And guess what? In fact, I just had an email from a gal the other day. She did that with to one of her clients, 5th year anniversary financial advisor. He gets cake. He's in the break room. This woman comes in. Oh, it's your birthday? No, my financial advisor sent it, celebrating our 5 years together. Really? Well, I don't have a financial advisor. And then she started to tell her story. My husband died 6 months ago. It's been really frustrating. And she got very emotional. And he said, hold on a second. He called his advisor, said, Misty, talk to my colleague here. $1.2 million. By what? Sending a cake to the office. And that woman had 1.2. She had $1 million worth of life insurance and 200,000 in savings. And now this individual is managing it for her. Now, why? Because she was thoughtful, kind, caring, and empathetic. That's it. That's the bridge.
Well, what's the difference between kindness and being thoughtful?
Oh, great point. So let's say being thoughtful. Well, we can pick any venue. Let's pick a restaurant. Okay.
Sure.
So let's say I come into a restaurant and I really want a table that's quiet. Okay, let me get that for you. All right. Now you note that in my cell phone, CXM. Next time I call and say, would you like another table where it's quiet? Sure. And then I get there, and now thoughtfully you've asked the question, but you're very kind because you say, Mr. Wildman, we have your table reserved for you in the back. I go, God, you people are unbelievable. Or let's say you're in an office and it's raining outside and the clients have to run across the street, or the customers, to get in their cars. Or maybe I'm running a deli, or maybe I'm running a hairdressing salon. Well, thoughtful is really nice. You can walk them out with an umbrella. But kind, you give an umbrella with your organizational name on it, and every time it rains in towns, you get 1,000 umbrellas advertising your business. That's it. Wow. Kindness is holding the door. Thoughtfulness is walking them to their car. Kindness is walking them to the elevator. Thoughtfulness is riding down to the lobby and showing them out. That's the difference.
Wow. This is Richard Wildman, and his book is 100 Proven Ways to Acquire and Keep Clients for Life. I really appreciate you being on. I feel like I need to pay you because I have a couple ideas of things I need to do. I love the notion of, hey, I thought of some additional steps we need to look at, to run by, because that is always, I've always felt awkward circling back with people. I'm touching base, and usually I'm out, but you're there. Hey, there's another little nugget here, and it may go nowhere, but at least I feel comfortable with that approach. So
you're bringing up some additional value, Frank, and that's what people need to realize. People today are driven by the value they're going to receive, the outcome. Listen, most people that have a product or a company, we're in love with our products and our platform, our procedures and our plans and our programs. Well, that's great, but the consumer's not in love with any of that. What they're in love with is two things: the outcome and the experience. So you give them a great outcome, you've given them experience to help them achieve that outcome by, as to your point, giving them a couple additional steps to help them get their fill in the blank, the house of their dreams. Listen, Mrs. Wilson, we're calling you. I know when you came in for your dental exam, that was quite a large amount of work that needs to be done, and we know it's quite expensive. We've identified some additional steps we can take to mitigate your pain, to help you get out of pain, and most importantly, make this affordable. We'd like you to come in so we can discuss this with you. You're going to close that business. That's where we are. Now, you might say, well, that's good, Richard, but how about the people that don't buy? Well, then I talk about this in the book. It's another one of the proven ways. Send them a thank you note.
Yeah.
Send them a thank you note. And here's the thank you note. Disappointed we're unable to work together now. I look forward to serving you in the future. Always feel welcome to call. Now, I didn't say I'm sorry. I said disappointed we're unable to work together now, because timing is important. I look forward, always focus on the future, not the past, look forward to serving you in the future, always feel welcome to call. Now, people say, well, does that really work? Well, I just, I speak, as you know, all over the world. And in January, I was in Chicago speaking at a conference, and the CEO got up to introduce me, and, ballroom full of people. And he said, well, before I'm going to introduce the speaker, I want to read a note that he sent me 5 years ago.
Mm.
And he said, 5 years ago, I tried to get this speaker to come in. Our schedules couldn't align. He was booked. I called him. Then we had the pandemic. And then last year he was booked again. So I booked him last year for this year. But let me tell you why I booked this guy. And then he read the note. It's disappointing we're unable to work together now, period. I look forward to serving you and your audience in the future. Always feel welcome to call. Warm regards, Richard. And the audience was like, he said, he sent me a thank you note because I had to say no, I couldn't choose the date. Ladies and gentlemen, he introduced me.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Now here's the point. I've sent lots of thank you notes out like that. I get lots of no's. But here's the bigger point. Two things happen. Number one, it's memorable. In that case, he kept it. He said, I've kept it under the glass on my desk all these years. I look at it frequently and say, we ought to be doing more of that. He said, but the second thing is, when I asked him afterwards, he said, Richard, allows us to save face. Because when we say no or something, well, we can't call Frank again. I mean, yeah, we told him no, the way we'd ever do business. Oh my God. And here we are 6 weeks later thinking, what were we thinking? I need to call Frank. You can't call Frank, honey. You told him unequivocally you'd never do business with him. Yeah, but he sent us this thank you note.
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking, Richard, is that when people ask that question, does that work? My response is, well, not doing it absolutely doesn't work, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. And so you've sent a lot of notes, and not every one of them have come back to you,
right.
But the ones that do, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Absolutely right. I was at a trade show, and I mean, so many things you can do. These two guys are wandering around trying to find a place to sit and eat lunch, and every exhibit, oh no, this is our booth, and no, is our table displayed? No, and they were high top tables, and they were all full. So they're coming down, and and I can see what they're. And I said, hey, why don't you guys sit right here? Well, thank you so much. That's great. And so we talked. 6 months later, I got a call from Jakarta, Indonesia.
Mm.
Thank you for showing us and allowing us to eat at your booth, at your display table. We'd like you to come and spend a week with us in Jakarta and in Singapore.
Wow.
Now, what did that cost? Now, I'm not saying I've got it figured out, but I do know one thing for sure, that people today are desperate, and there's many examples, for somebody that's going to be kind and thoughtful and caring and empathetic. And when you're that, people, Sybil Dayar said this, I thought it was a great quote, and I won't get it exactly right, but basically, people will forget your title, but they'll never forget your kindness. And that's exactly right.
I guess shifting gears to kind of wrap up here, people listening, if you want to talk about some of the consulting you do, obviously they go buy the book, go right on Amazon, go to the bookstore, 100 proven ways to acquire and keep clients for life. And it's Richard Weilman, and it's spelled Weylman, and I will certainly put that in the show notes. What other things are you have up to, and how can people get a hold of you?
Well, thank you for that, Frank. Of course, I speak a great deal at conferences all over the world, from small conferences. I had one the other day of 12 people. And, then when they call me and said, no, it's only 12 people. I don't care if it's 2 people. Yeah. If I can come in and help you advance that which it is you want to accomplish, let's go with it. And then I just did 40,000 at the Pepsi Center. So the size is not important to me. What's important is that a leader in an organization doesn't just want somebody to do a rah-rah, let's get them, but really to give people the what and the how. I mean, we all go to meetings, here's what to do. Well, that's great, but if I don't know how to do it, it's probably not going to have any implementation effect. So I like to talk about here's what to do and here's exactly how to do it. I had a client the other day say, the thing about, I've spoken for them over 100 times over the years, all over their offices all over the world. He said, every time you show up, you bring us prescriptive tactics that people immediately go, I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of speaking, and you can go to Richard Weilman, WEYLMAN.com. And topics are there. You can send me there's a form, very easy to fill out. It's pretty much automated. And I can reach out to you and we can have a conversation about your meeting. On the consulting side, go to our consulting page on richardweilman.com. You'll see like Barbara Corcoran's testimonial there, but most important, you'll see lots and lots of case studies of all different industries and what we've done as a firm to be able to help them connect to their consumers with a brand promise, and then, if you will, deliver on the promise that they make to elevate their experience, to take satisfied clients and turn them into delighted advocates. Because we know that satisfied clients are loyalty neutral, 20 to 30% of them, based on all the work I've done for many different companies at almost every sector of the industry. We know that when we talk to people and they say they're satisfied, we know 20 to 30% of them, we ask them, would you move to another firm? Well, yeah, I'm open. But a delighted advocate never is. So there's lots of case studies, lots of different industries, from manufacturing to the NFL to financials, on and on it goes, hospitality. And I put case studies up so you can see what their issue was. And then I show you exactly how we help them and partner with them to solve the issue. Is that helpful, Frank?
For me, it's helpful. I do appreciate your time. Been very insightful. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you. It's been a privilege to be with you, and always feel welcome to reach out. I'm here for you.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.